Hey, hello, and welcome to another solo edition of Freshly Popped. Today I'm going to be talking about perhaps a bit of a strange one. Perhaps you've not even heard of this. I only knew it existed when I went through the cinema listings. I hadn't seen any trailers prior. So it's an Australian animated film called Lesbian Space Princess. At its core, it's a coming-of-age story, paying particular attention to issues surrounding anxiety, self-esteem, and ultimately self-empowerment. Its humour is rooted mostly in satire and upending societal norms. It establishes a planet called Clitopolis, where queerness is the status quo. Interestingly, the heteronormative element within the film is represented as the villain. What I found most entertaining about the Malians was how they acted as something of a parody of male ego. For example, they were talking about societal expectations, specifically expectations that people have when it comes to the male identity, when it comes to masculinity. They're talking quite openly about how they believe that what is expected of them is very limited. They talk about how they're expected to be beautiful, but not too beautiful, or feminine, but not too feminine. They're talking specifically about this very narrow definition of what a man should be, or more specifically, what women appreciate in a man. That's their primary focus here. The film overall doesn't feel inherently anti-heterosexual. However, its critique is directed more at the limited gender expectations that ultimately are still very much a part of our society. Obviously, not everyone assigns to these. Gender has become more fluid, it's become something more complex. People do express gender identity in many different ways, but then obviously we do have the flip side, where some children are raised to be masculine or to be feminine. I mean, it goes both ways. We talk about how, there's toxic masculinity. Boys are raised not to cry or show emotion, but it also goes for women, how they're taught not to be masculine. Even things as simple as, when people have babies, if they're having a girl, they'll be buying everything pink, or if they're having a boy, they'll be buying everything blue. So it even starts then. It's still a thing. There is a tendency for the film to rely perhaps too heavily on subversive humour. Ultimately, they seem to take anything that's considered the norm or normative, and they essentially invert it. I imagine to some that this could feel a little too repetitive or tedious, perhaps. I didn't really have a problem with it, but my thought was, some people could find this annoying, because it's quite relentless in the way that it's done. The humour, most notably its delivery, also felt quintessentially Australian. I was trying to come up with some examples of Australian humour. What came to mind was Kath and Kim, which is irreverent, quirky, silly, sometimes bizarre, and its humour is very specific. In terms of the film's visual style, it felt distinctly modern and highly expressive. It was reminiscent perhaps most of Rick and Morty, Steven Universe, and to some extent Adventure Time. This very expressive visual language. What I appreciated most about the animation was how it very obviously conveyed how characters were feeling internally, so it would externalize the emotional states of its characters. There is very little subtlety in this regard, but it seems to match the sensibility of the film as a whole. It felt cohesive to me. It's maybe important to note that, whilst I found the film engaging, its relentlessly satirical approach perhaps didn't allow me to feel genuine empathy or emotion. I feel like it struggled to pause, reset potentially, and allow room for something more sincere. I'm going to give it 3.5. I thought it was a very enjoyable film with expressive animation and a quirky sensibility, but it lacked ultimately a deeper emotional core. I can't say this film will be for everyone. I'm certain that many will be put off by the title alone, unfortunately. I am very curious to know who is going to see this film. Usually I'm aware of what's coming up, but this one just seemed to slide in from nowhere. I think it's had success at festivals, but as I say, I don't know much about the film. So yeah, I would recommend going. I think it's worth a watch. So that's all I've got to say about Lesbian Space Princess. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this short review, short and sweet. We're trying to grow this channel slowly, so if you think you might be interested in seeing more from us, be sure to subscribe. Also, it would be great if we could reach a milestone and think about investing in a better camera, because I appreciate that some of the prior videos have looked pretty dire. So yeah, I don't know what this one looks like. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you next time. Just take care.